In the heart of the deep forest, where tall trees intertwined and shaded the ground, lived a pack of gray wolves. The forest had always been an arena of conflict between wolves and bears, as the latter controlled areas rich in food and water. The wolves lived under this pressure for long periods, content with what resources they had left. But over time, the leader of the pack, a strong and wise gray wolf, began to see that this situation was no longer acceptable. Circumstances had changed, and the pack had become stronger and more organized. It was time to change the course of events and regain control of the forest. One cold night, the gray wolf gathered the pack members in a narrow valley surrounded by dense trees. They were all in a state of anticipation, knowing that their leader had gathered them only for a momentous matter. The leader stood on a high rock, looked at each one of them with a sharp and decisive look, and then addressed them in a voice full of strength and determination. "The time when bears ruled over us is gone forever," the leader said in a roaring voice. "We have lived for so long, obeying their orders, waiting for the scraps of resources they leave us, but that time is over. Today, we are stronger than ever. Our strength lies in our unity and organization. We will no longer accept living in fear and threat." The wolves roared in the valleys, reflecting enthusiasm and support for their leader's words. They knew that this was the most dangerous challenge of their lives, but it was also the only chance to achieve the freedom and control they had always dreamed of. "The bears are not stronger than us," the leader continued. "They were taking advantage of our dispersion and dispersion. But now we are united, and I have a clear plan. We will begin by controlling the water sources, the lifeblood of the forest. If we can secure them, we will force the bears to retreat to the edges of the forest. There will be no retreat, no compromise. This is an existential battle, and we will either emerge stronger or never emerge." The leader looked at the faces of the pack, and saw in their eyes a determination he had never seen before. He knew that they were ready to fight, not just for survival, but for dominance of the entire forest. They knew that success in this mission meant a new future, free from fear and dependency. In the following days, the pack began to implement their leader's plan with caution and intelligence. The attacks were quick and organized, and the bears found themselves cornered in places they had not expected. They could no longer control themselves as before, and they began to feel danger creeping into their strongholds. As the conflict intensified, the forest became a battlefield for fierce fighting. But the wolves did not back down. They knew that making any concessions would mean returning to the status quo ante, and this was not an option. Eventually, as the conflict continued, the balance of power began to tip in favor of the wolves. The bears were forced to gradually retreat towards the outskirts, leaving behind fertile lands and water. Victory was near, and the wolves knew that this victory would not have happened without their unity and their determination not to make any concessions. After weeks of continuous fighting, the leader once again stood before the pack members. Their eyes were shining with pride and victory. They had succeeded in what everyone thought was impossible. The forest was no longer a place of humiliation and fear, but rather a home for strong wolves who were able to impose their control without hesitation or retreat.